good. You guys have to try it if you don't already do it.
That is so cool.
Do you guys?
I've never had papaya.
I mean, Deborah probably knows what it, right? When you cut it, it's mostly like, it's open. It just has these black seeds in it. You just scoop them out.
But I haven't had a papaya in a really long time. I have it sometimes.
I've never bought a papaya.
Yeah.
Get one. And then I cut it. I cut up in small pieces, threw into the blender with a couple pieces of ice and like a little bit of sugar. I mean, you could add how much sugar you want and just a tad of water. Oh, it was like a little papaya smoothie.
So is it on the sweet side or the tart side?
No, sweet. It's sweet. And I mean, I did add sugar. They tell you in the recipe to add sugar, but I mean, obviously, I guess you could not, right? But, and I think it's like anything. Sometimes you get a good one and it's sweet and sometimes it's not, right? But it tells you that. So I added sugar to it. But I guess you don't have to. Anyway.
You know what?
It's very good. I felt healthy even though I added sugar. I still felt it was healthy because I blended it.
I love that you tried something new. And I think that, you know, in COVID, especially like during COVID, I mean, it's hard to try new things, but in COVID times, like it's so hard to stay connected. It's so, you know, like there's so much fear of like, do I have my mask on? Do I have that? It's hard to try new things. And I think it's really great that you tried new things. We just
you guys all have to get a papaya now and try it.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Vanessa, you vanished. There she is.
Oh, there she is. Yeah.
And it's like, it was huge.
Yeah. So
I feel like I have to eat a lot of them because it's going to go to waste.
Can you freeze? You know what? Why don't you cut it up and freeze it? And then
I wondered about that because, you know,
put it in your smoothie. Like I freeze bananas and grapes and I use it in my smoothie every morning.
I was thinking about that. So you have frozen vegetables and then when you put them in the blender, it's still okay.
Yeah. Actually, you know what I have a bullet and I find that sometimes it was spilling over because of the frozen fruit. So I put whatever frozen fruit I'm using, I'll nuke it for 20 seconds in the microwave.
Okay.
So that it's still firm-ish, but it's not frozen, and that works better.
Okay. And it doesn't lose like the so-called vitamins when you freeze it or anything.
I think so, but I don't know. I mean, it's better than throwing it away, and it's probably good fiber. You know, I think that some of the old fruits and vegetables are better than we think because there's a reason why people ate papaya. It's probably good like in vitamin A and zinc and selenium. Like there's probably all these things that they were getting from their diet that we probably don't get because we don't get papayas.
No, I didn't think we can get good ones here. I mean, I don't know if it got like FedEx from so-and-so.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be good, you know, buying papaya from here because I doubt it was grown here, right? I don't know. Maybe they've in Florida. I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys probably get better from fruits and vegetables than we do anyway.
Yeah. All right. So listen, what are we thinking about? What do we want to do with our folklore?
This is Vanessa's idea.
What
are you thinking?
It was just that when I realized, and you know, it felt very uncharacteristically me, where I realized I let my father pass without really getting all the stories down, at least the story of how we came here, how like all the sisters and brothers ended up here.
Yes.
Maybe even a little bit more about obviously what their life was back on the island, because I really don't know. You know, I mean, I don't think of, I mean, the first time I went to Puerto Rico, I was like 30 or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I realized I really didn't know. I remember hearing things, but I didn't even know how they all came over.
Well, I can tell. My
mom told me what Dad told her, but I don't know.
You know, I can tell you what my mother told me. But so
then I was just thinking it'd be important that at some point, if we have to write it down, but at least tell our younger folks.
Because, you know, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, what would be a good way that it would be received? Because, like, I don't know if any of you have ever gotten a family history. I've received one from my father and then, like, one of his cousins or something. And I may have read it, like, after I had it for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I've never read it again. And
was
say you read it. It was in a narrative form?
Yes. So I was thinking that if we really do want to do something and tell the story, it may not work for the younger generation if they're reading it, and it might have to be a video.
Well, that's what Anthony, because my grandson's in broadcast,
Yes.
and he's working on a couple of documentaries, and so is his friend. So I told him what we were having this call.
Yes.
Did he have any suggestions?
Yes.
One of the things he said is that as we do the interviews on Zoom, we should record them.
Yeah.
So we're recording the stories and then we put them all together. And yes, they can be edited. If we
Yes.
some go off a little bit off track, can be edited. Then I was asking him, does he have any questions? But I mean, like I have a list of questions that I thought we could ask.
Yeah.
So we're consistent with those questions. But I know sometimes people will say something that will lead to another question.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking that I agree with you. I mean, if we could do it in a narrative, that would be great. But oral histories are much more
alive.
Yes, and I think more people would listen to it. Your father was a great storyteller, Vanessa, because I'll never forget it. Your sister's wedding, and we sat underneath that tree. He was telling the story.
And don't we have
more than I thought I would because my memories. But he was a great storyteller, and he just went down each sister, and
that was great.
Right?
I thought somebody was
that anymore.
I recorded it. I recorded. Well, I don't know if I recorded that actually. Let me take that back. I don't know if I recorded that.
I think Rich recorded it.
Who did?
Rich?
Who's Rich?
My ex-husband?
Oh.
I think so. I don't know why I think that.
I have photos of that. I don't remember whether it was my wedding or Serena's wedding, but I have photos of everybody sitting around. Titi Petra was still alive.
Yeah.
I have photos of everybody around. And I had this recollection that somebody was clipping some of it. I mean, I don't know.
Huh.
It was at Serena's wedding at your parents' house.
Okay.
And I remember my mother and Celia, your mother, at times they were like appalled that he was telling some of the stories because they were both very proper.
Yes.
And, Genio, they would say. But anyway, I don't remember anybody recording, but I do remember.
I do remember a lot of the stories, but I did have some recordings of Genio, but I don't have them anymore when I switched my phone.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Because I remember when he was sick in his last year of his life, I thought you had come and I heard you hitting.
I did record. I had them for a long time.
You don't have it?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I know.
So the question is whether anybody recorded those stories, Deborah.
Yeah.
But
so if we were going to do what you all are suggesting, it would seem that we would have to do it like this, a small Zoom.
yes.
So it would be, say, Mary Jo, Chris, Miranda, and Ava talking about Titi Adela.
Right.
And then talking about Fred and Dottie, and then Mary Jo, and then Miranda. It seems to me that we should go through each of those generations because some of our grandchildren never met Titi Adela, or maybe didn't even meet Freddie and Dottie. So it'd be nice for that story to be told. So if we did it like that, and then there was a moderator asking the questions.
So are we asking questions though about are we just trying to get what is everybody's life, or are we trying to, or is it what are the stories of our past? Like are we trying to talk about where we came from and the stories that we heard about where we came from, or is it documenting, what is Vivian doing now? Do you know what I mean? Or is it?
No, you know what I think?
mean?
I think it's what we received from our families. What are the gifts that we received from our family? I think that's what it is. Because when we talk about the stories like Genio's great stories, it's like we're receiving all this history. What are the gifts that we received from our families? and maybe how we live our life.
Or maybe it's just storytelling, like we just say it's just storytelling, and it's like tell us a story that was told to you about the family. It could be how they came, about a funny incident, or a not so funny incident. And then if they're younger and they don't have those stories, or maybe it could be a story about their encounter with their grandmother or something like that. And then as they get younger, obviously, if for some reason they don't have those stories but I think everybody would have a story about, almost like tell us a story of your ancestor, which could either be your mother, your father, your grandmother. Like if it was a story about someone who preceded you, and they could be alive or dead, just it's a story about your elders, and I think that would naturally. So then if Ava and Miranda want to tell an awesome story about Mary, that's suitable. If they had some story about, Dorothy, that's fine as well, or, but right. Because that's what I felt like, because I also felt like, no, Deborah, we didn't see Deborah when we were younger, but we were all still very close, and just because we worked at it. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like maybe the cousins for the next generation, because they didn't have the benefit of like going to a yard party at Titi Celia's, or, go to Uncle Fred's on Sunday to have lunch together or something. They probably don't have the same closeness or sense of like the need to preserve it.
Right.
And those calls for us are fun to see everybody, but probably them being told of stories of 50 years ago about aunts they've never met, it probably doesn't connect fully with them. But there are some great stories from there that they probably would find interesting. And as they get older, like we did, they'll at least want to know where we came from.
Right.
Even if
I think it's important to
right?
have some of that, where we came from, and historical perspective of each of the sisters,
Right.
and then some of the storytelling. But I do agree, because when I'm using my grandchildren as an example, one of them said, "Oh, well, we only know Miranda and Ava, as a cousin of their peer." Well, that's how I was till I knew everybody because we stayed in touch, but I didn't really know anybody until, the first reunion when we got together. And anyway, I said, it's something that you have to work at after you make the connection, if that's what your desire is. But I said, my goal, your grandmother, is for you to know about the Jimenezes. I said, about the Ramirezes because we all grew up together.
Right.
So they know Titi Nova, the Marinellos, they know my grandmother's side, from my mother's side. But I feel to know about the Jimenezes and who they are. And then that next generation. I thought it was pretty cool that Leanna's son joined.
Right? Right. And then he said, but then it was sad to me when he said, I never knew Titi Laro. Right? How do you not know Titi Laro? she was like a force.
Yeah, but maybe
she was dead before he was born. That's why,
Yeah.
I do think that we should try to piece together the timeline, because I don't think we know who came when.
Right.
Yes.
So you thought Adela came, and my mom was adamant that Mama came and then Adela came. Like they were the two anchors. That's what I was told, and you were told something different.
See, that can't be, because my father was born in 1928. And the story I always heard was his mother came to New York. He was left back in Puerto Rico. And then he came when he was 5. That would have been 1933. Right. Your grandmother was too busy having your father and your mother in Puerto Rico.
Right.
When was your father born?
Wait a second. My mother was born in 1931. And my understanding is that my mother and Genio came up on the boat with Blanca, who was a friend of the family. And my mother, I think she was like 3. Like, that's kind of like.
So what year would that have been?
34, if she was born in 31.
She was 31. Right. She was born in 1931. And Genio was born 3 years later in 34. No, they were both walking. They were both both.
Okay, but my mom, this is where it's good to have the call, because then my mom said that, and I think that's where we have to kind of piece a timeline. She said that Dad told her that Mama was sent over first, And okay, so what he told her was Mama decided to leave Puerto Rico. Well, I'm sure it was a family decision, but it was after the father, after the real father, right? Dad's real father.
Yeah.
Well, and also, right, Fred's real father.
Yeah.
After, isn't it Agrieta, something like that,
Yes.
right?
Agrait.
Agrieta.
Yeah.
There you go. Agrieta died in a car accident.
A bus. He got hit by a bus.
He got hit
Who,
by
the
a bus.
father?
Okay, so
Yes.
my mom said it was 2 cars, whatever. He had a car accident and he died, and that
He got hit by a bus.
you got hit by a bus. Okay, and then I was told, my mom told me, because I just asked her this. She said, Dad said that's when Mama went to, after the crash, he was left behind, and so was Titi. Like Mama went to, he told her that Mama went to New York by herself. No one. So if Mama came over with, like, according to Daddy, if Mama came over on a boat or something with Titi Celia, and eventually
They went up.
that was after she already established herself.
Right. They went up and established themselves, and then they
Mhm.
sent for their kids.
Well, and I was told that it was Mama first, and then, and it could have been like very shortly thereafter. I don't know if it was months, whatever, that then Adela came, and Adela made her money as the seamstress on 7th Avenue, big deal. Mama made most of her money running a social club. And then it was those two who anchored and brought their kids over, and then the rest of the family.
And,
Okay,
When was her
but I
father
get what
born?
Mary's saying. I don't, maybe the timeline's off. Did Adela go first without?
Without my father.
right.
So
And
I
he
don't
was
know.
born
I
when, in
didn't know there were
28?
literally days separating Adela and Mama if they didn't come over together.
Yeah, I think my grandmother must have come like around 1930, 31.
Mm-hmm. There must be
And
some.
your grandmother couldn't have come then because
So
she
you
still
think-
didn't have your
Yeah.
parents.
So Dad says that, Dad always said, and Mom repeated it today, was that he lost his father at 4. When he was 4. And so in and around that time is when Mama
But
came.
that would have been in 38.
I
Yeah.
actually don't have my dad's birth date. I would have to go look it back up again.
So one thing I know is that when
Weird.
Blanca brought my mother and Henyo up on the boat.
Who's Blanca? Am I supposed
Blanca was a friend of the family. I don't even know like what her last name is. It was Blanca. And sometimes she would go to the Bronx. I saw her a few times at the Bronx, like when we were all sitting on the plastic furniture and dancing. She was there, but I think she lived in Puerto Rico most of the time. But she was the person who brought the 2 kids up, and Celia and Adela were in New York, and my mother said to Henyo, we don't want to live here. We want to live with Abuela, because like they were raised, by Abuela, and they were brought up to be with their mothers, and they don't even know their mothers. So according to my mother, she took Henyo's hand and she's running down the pier, like, we're not going to stay here. And Blanca is chasing them, like, no, no me dejas, you have, you're going to live with your mothers. But they did not want, they felt like they belonged to Puerto Rico.
They wanted to stay in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not clear to me too, then my mom just said, and then after Adela and Mama had enough money, they brought over their kids, and then basically all the other aunts and uncles came, but it's not really clear. She made it sound like they all came together then and lived in a series of 2 or 3 houses or something, because she said by the time everybody came over, Mama had her own apartment, Adela had her own apartment, and then like Celia, she actually, what she told me was the first aunt that came over was Celia, because no, not Delia, sorry, Delia, and Delia brought the kids over, which I know, right, may have included who, and she said, and that's when they all lived in an apartment together in New York, and I think that was
seems
after,
unlikely.
I think it was after Delia's good husband died, before Nick, because I think Nick
What
was.
did you say?
I think that she made it sound like that was like when they came to New York, that's when Nick entered the picture. Because I think Delia's good husband,
Pedro Angel.
what's his
That
name?
was Pedro Angel. He was a pilot or something.
Right. My
Yeah,
mom says
I
that like he was like a handsome, wonderful, sweet pilot guy that died in the war. And then, then Nick came. I don't know.
But that was already like 1946.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when Delia came over, was she now with Nick already? I thought she met Nick in New York or like in the US, like mainland.
Yeah. No, she was already here. They were here by the late 30s, I think. They were all here.
And who lived all in the house together then? Like I know that at some point I know my dad lived with Delia and Nick, but if he was living with Delia and Nick,
Much
did that
later.
necessarily mean Elaine and Vivian eventually? No, because they were much younger though, right?
He lived with Delia and Nick when he went to college.
Okay.
He lived in their back room because I remember that.
So in that
was
time though,
going
Elaine
to
and
NYU.
Fernanda
And then
would
he
have
lived
been
with us
Elaine and Vivian.
when
Okay.
I was like 12, because he was also going to NYU, and we were living in the Bronx on Preston Avenue.
Okay.
And he lived with us for a year, and we shared a room. Father ever tell you those stories?
No.
I must not 12. I was like 8.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, we were roommates, and we used to drive each other crazy. We used to, like, if one was sleeping, we'd like flip the lights on and off.
Awesome.
And yeah,
That's fun. Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
great.
we had so much fun.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, that's why your father and I were always very close, because he lived with us for that year.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Then he
I
moved
know
to
Vivian
Manila.
at one point lived with us. I remember something about that.
Vivian lived with
Yes.
us.
And I remember my dad telling hellish stories about living with Nick and Delia and how Nick accused him of sleeping with Delia and like something about running through a hall with like, I think he said it was a machete, but it probably was some kind of knife. 'Cause I don't know if he was holding
No,
it.
no, no. That was Abuela. She was going down the hallway. According to your father, this was one of the Ayeta La Puerta versions.
Uh-huh.
So he opens up the door to his bedroom because he's hearing something, and he sees Abuela, and like, no bra, short, like just like, and she has
Right. Yes.
a kitchen knife
Yeah.
in her hand, and she's walking down the hallway, and she's saying, "Le voy a matar, le voy a matar," and your father, according
That was Nick. She was shouting at Nick though, right?
right, yeah, and she's going down the hallway because she's going to kill him, and so he is this lanky teenager who puts his arm over Abuela, and she's like, "Le voy a matar, le voy a matar," and he's like draped over, and his legs are dragging on the on the floor, no le mate, no, and she's like just heaving over. So that's the story that he told at the wedding. That was one of the Ayeta La Puerta.
And that was
I
when
used
he
to
was
feel
going to
sorry.
NYU, though.
What's that?
That's when he was going to NYU.
That was when I was going to NYU.
Yeah. He like lived with everybody for a while.
Yeah, he
I
was.
used to feel sorry for Nick as a little kid because my memory of Nick was, by that time he was kind of like a dementia old little man and I remember, this just shows kind of how I was raised. I vividly remember going most of all going to Dee house, and when we'd have those garden,
Yes, right, the backyard party. Yeah.
people just kind of roll Nick somewhere and then leave him there. Sometimes they would give him food, but like nobody, I was always trained, like if someone's by themselves, you should go talk to them, and I could never understand. I always felt so bad for Nick because he was by himself. People weren't talking to him. So sometimes he always had that powder blue suit on for me. That's what I remember. And I always felt bad for him. And I don't know why I never really asked. I know I would sit down and try to talk to him. I mean, but mostly he just smiled then and,
Yeah.
And I still remember this. I have this vivid memory one time of I was bringing a plate of your mom's like fresh vegetables and dip cut up or something.
Yeah.
And of course, again, because I always felt sorry for Nick. I didn't know he was an asshole. I brought him the plate to give him, to feed him because no one else was feeding him. And I remember to this day, I don't know how old I was, probably only like 11 maybe or something. He grabbed a carrot and he dipped it in the thing, and this big mosquito like flew on the dip. And as he was putting it in his mouth, I kept saying, "No, Uncle Nick, no, Uncle Nick, no, Uncle Nick," and he just ate the bug. And it's like, I don't have a really good memory from when I'm younger, but that particular memory is into my brain. And I felt so bad for him. I think one of my other sisters knew, like, he ate the bug, he ate the bug. It was only until later did I hear that he was such a jerk.
And then Vanessa, did he then say, "God bless you"? Because that's
Yes,
the other
yes.
thing. Like,
You're right,
when he
yes.
got into his dementia mode, he was always like, "God bless
God bless you.
you, God bless you, God bless you."
But, you know, before he had dementia, when they would come down here, or we went up there for a wedding, whatever, I really liked him. He was so nice to me. This is before he got sick. He was
Yeah.
so nice and very sweet, and like just a sweet uncle. And
Yeah.
and then I would always go, why doesn't anybody like him? And then of course, Vivian had her thing, but my mother and father never said anything about anybody ever.
Uh-huh.
Didn't find
No,
out
I
till
never
later
knew till later.
Yeah.
that Nick, you know, did some of the things that he did, and then of course Vivian didn't mince any words. But I would go, oh, he's such a nice man. And then when he started getting sick, then people were saying cruel things like he deserves it, and
I know.
But
Hey, guys, we have 4 minutes left. So I just want you to know that I pressed recording. I have no idea what that means. At some point, I don't know when I did it. I don't know if it's an audio recording or video recording or how I get it. But I just want you to know that, because I thought, let's experiment with what this could be. So I think we should like think about everything that we talked about, and maybe have another Zoom fest and figure out how we want to move it forward.
And so can I just confirm that none of us, we don't think we have any videos of any of these stories, do we?
I think, can you get Sarah to ask Rich?
I will ask him. You really think that? I can't remember. Like, I would think that I would know that.
And I have a video of my wedding, which I don't know if I ever have even watched it barely. I could check to see if he added anything in there. Somewhere I have it.
Yes, right, because he did your wedding video?
Yeah. But then he also did Serena's. So I'll ask Serena as well if she has anything.
Yeah, because
Deborah, you thought it might have been Serena's wedding, not mine, right?
Right.
Because I think that I would have been at that point, you know, I would have known this. I would have known about it. I would have done something with it. I can't, and I don't think video was something that he did back then. He didn't do video.
Yeah, and you didn't have any. Yeah, I mean, mine's on a VCR, right? I mean, it's a VCR video, what I have.
Right.
And the reason it might be my way and Deborah only is because my father was very sick at Serena's wedding.
Correct.
And was he sick on that when you were talking? Okay,
Yes.
so it was. Okay, so if he didn't feel well, maybe that's why he was sitting down and okay. All right, well, we'll look at that. We'll look at that. And nobody really has, I'll look around. I mean, because I had something once that someone gave me. I don't know how I have it. Maybe that was from you, like an old letter from, no, that was that. I don't really have any historical records. I mean, I've never done any of that ancestry.com. Have any of us tried that?
Either. I haven't either.
Because it is sort of interesting how we don't know who came over, but presumably they came over and they were paying taxes, for instance. You know what I mean? Like it would be.
I did do some research. The last time I went to Puerto Rico, I did do some research, but here's what I found. I found that a lot of information wasn't available because we weren't always legal. We weren't like, we just didn't, you know, we didn't know the language. You know, there wasn't a lot. I did remember that I did see like who came over, but like then when we got here, there wasn't a lot of documentation of weddings or births.
Right. Well, and we had two bastards, right? Right.
Right. So there was a lot of info. Yeah.
All right. Maybe we can have another phone call next week or the weekend after that, and maybe we can.
Well, wait a second. Is Celia's father the same as Fred and Geno's?
Yes.
Okay, so all three of them have.
I don't even have his full name. If someone can text it, I had it once, but I don't have it.
I have it. Nicholas Agrait. It's Agriat.
AT. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like,
And I have
all I
pictures.
know is that my dad came over when he was 12, but I don't know any details of any of that.
And when was your father born?
In 19,
Yeah,
wait,
you know what? I got to pull out that
25.
stuff we put together.
Okay.
It's in that
My
book.
father was born in 25.
Like, do we have everybody's full name and their dates of birth of all the main parents? All the male, the
I don't
sisters?
know, that's what we should probably
Because
get.
if that's not in that booklet we have, we
It
should
isn't.
exchange
I
that.
checked.
It is or isn't?
What booklet are you talking about?
The one we put together for the first.
Are you talking about like the calendar thing?
Yeah, it's not there.
Okay, so we need names, date of birth.
Yeah, full names and date of birth. And
What
if
else?
know
Because
any-
I can